Yeah.
Hey, can you just hit the guitar just so I'm seeing it waveforms?
Sure. Sweet.
And ow, that is too loud for my monitors. Ow. Are you guys good? You can hear good?
Yeah?
Oh yeah, are we even using those right now?
We're using a fucking speaker cab, people.
Yeah, rock and roll.
We're using a fucking speaker cab. I'm so excited. All right.
All right.
That could be the intro to this video right there. What's going on, everybody? Sean Pierce Johnson here. It is the last day of GitCon 2017 here in Martineukirchen, Germany, and I have saved what I wanted to see the most for very last. I am sitting here with Andrea and Fabrizio from Klonz, and we are taking a look at the JOYO Dual Klonz amplifier. Man, Henning made pretty much everybody aware of what you guys were doing, and I've kind of followed this whole process that you guys have gone through with the Kickstarter and the technology, and then JOYO picking up on it, and now that it's here and in the flesh, and I've gotten a chance to play it over the last few days, it's kind of everything that I was hoping for it to be. It really is.
With a cab.
Yeah, really, with a speaker cab. We've been recording with cab sims for most of these videos, and to have it plugged into this really killer coffee cab is something pretty special right now. Mic'd up with a Shure SM57, boy howdy, I'm feeling good. So before we really get into sampling any of the tones and talking about some of the specs of the amp, how did this idea first come to you guys? Because you could say that this is a modeling amp, but it's not really a modeling amp. So how did that idea first get into your heads?
So, from where should I start? Well, I've been making amps for 30 years, and always single piece production for that friend, that musician, that guy, and so I never made twice the same amp. And I kind of learned how to get that Vox-ish sound, that Marshall-ish sound, that Mesa-ish sound, because I was just doing what the customer wanted.
Right.
And I had a period where I was actually at home and with some spare time a couple of years ago, actually closer to 3 years ago.
3 years ago, yeah.
And those ideas come, you never know why, but I said, okay, I know how to do this and that and that. Let's put everything together and see if there's a way of making a modeling amp, which is not a modeling amp. Basically, it's a real amp, and you're just rewiring things and rerouting the signal and changing components and make it be the real thing, which was the original name of
the original name was the
real thing.
Yeah. So I know Fabrizio since the school years.
High school, and he says he
years.
designs amps and analog things and those analog things since 30 years.
Those analog things.
Yeah, and I just mangling those digital things and programming things since high school.
Yeah.
So you can understand the mesh.
Yeah, I understand nothing of what he's doing, and yes,
and
you
you trust me.
Yeah, and I trust you. And he does understand something of analog, but he's the digital guy, basically. So we needed, we got a perfect match because I knew what to do, but I didn't have a clue on about how to make this work and the digital controller work. So it was a perfect match, and we are friends since ever. So it was also a lot of
And
fun.
we still keep being friends. So
Yeah,
Perfecto.
I was kind of afraid of it. Oh, this is going to ruin our friendship because sooner or later we are going to fight. But
You would think.
It didn't happen yet, actually.
Well, there you go.
And definitely, I'm a keyboard player and he's a guitar player.
Okay.
So
Also.
again, differences and a different way of looking at the same thing, but from a different point of view.
Yeah, but see,
And
what you guys
he
are...
never argued about the sound. If I said it's all right,
Wow.
he didn't argue.
But see,
So
the
this
thing
is-
that you guys are emphasizing is that there's this kind of acknowledgement of the differences, but it's bringing together the advantages of
Yep.
both
Sure.
to bring about
Yeah.
something new. And for me, with music and technology, that's always been a big thing. It's like digital is getting very good at doing certain things, but it's not quite at where analog has been for so long and has done so well for so long. And so seeing what you guys were doing and the ability to essentially a multi-path circuit
Yep.
with controls that would essentially reroute the guitar signal through different types of circuitry, it was just because essentially people don't want to admit this, but most amplifier circuits are slight modifications of almost the same thing.
Absolutely, yes.
Yeah.
I'll
yeah.
be the first person to say it. You know, I'm not
Yeah.
afraid of it, but it's like a recipe for just the most basic dish. Everybody has their own little way of doing
You're
it
right.
to achieve
True.
the final result.
Yeah.
And you've gone and given us the whole kitchen cabinet for us to have at our disposal.
Yeah,
Definitely is.
Why is it that I'm talking about food with Italians? It runs.
It's known, and
Italian food is very deep in my family, so I guess that's why it happens. I Italian food is a way to my heart.
Thank you.
It speaks to my grandparents and all the good times there. Enough about that, though. The specs on this thing and the package that you've put together with JOYO for this particular amp is something really extraordinary. So we've got a 2-channel amplifier.
Yep.
One could say that, oh, you're clean and you're dirty, but it's really a vintage and a modern channel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you can, if you want 2 clean sounds, one vintage, one modern, if you want 2 dirty sounds, which is probably what I'm going to want to do, you can have a vintage style clean tone, dirty tone and a more modern style clean tone. But the really interesting thing is the tube package that you guys have put together with this.
That's important to mention.
Stock, what does it ship with? I can't remember.
6L6.
6L6s. And the tube package includes 34s?
34s
Yeah.
and 84s.
Okay. And you've got the sockets for those appropriate
Yeah.
tubes already
Yeah, of
built
course.
in. Now, this is something that the end user, the customer can do themselves without
Yeah.
having to take it to an amp
Yeah.
tech for biasing.
Yeah.
No problem. It's self-biasing on any tube. And actually, you can use also other tubes. Basically, all the tubes used in modern amps can be used.
My mind is being blown right now. Like, I know all this stuff, but I still, just the idea of being able to have this much flexibility from something that is so simple and I don't have to navigate through much in the menu form to be able to get a great tone is astounding. The only thing that I would need is to make sure that my iPad is updated to the most recent operating system, because we have this on top of the amp right now, which you gotta. I'll let you guys show them what exactly this does.
Okay, so you said already we have 2 preamps which are totally separate. It's not clean and dirty. It's actually, as you said, vintage and modern. The reason for that is that the circuit structure is kind of different. So we stay within the same family of amps here, and we do the same also over there. So basically here we have all the usual suspects from the 50s and 60s, and here we have the 80s and 90s classics, as I will show you. Then there is a power amp in the middle, down there, which is in common with 2. So when you select a preamp mode on the vintage, it also turns on the right model for the power amp.
It grabs the power amp.
Yeah, and you can swap tubes. Basically, you can use any tube which is normally used, any pentode or tetrode tube with a normal socket can be used there, from EL84s to 6550s and everything in between. We tested probably 30 of them. And the power goes from 15 watts to 25 watts, depending on the tube.
Right.
Why 25? It's a kind of sweet spot to let the circuit adapt to several power tubes without the need of any rebiasing or adjusting the power voltage. It makes things simple, but also I have to say that the first prototypes were 50 watts. And if you want to drive a little bit the power amp, it gets way too loud. I
Yeah.
think 25 was the right balance.
Yeah,
And
and-
it's still usable. 50. I mean, they will call the police outside.
And
very soon.
I think right now
Even
they're,
with 25.
yeah.
Even with, well, maybe even with the 25. But anyway, it's kind of a sweet spot. We thought,
Yeah.
okay, between 15 and 25, you can use it live. You may have heard Felix last
Yes,
night. It
yes.
was quite,
Yeah.
Yes.
quite good.
Yeah, not so bad. Definitely.
and so it's manageable.
Yeah, and I think right now there is a push towards lower wattage amplifiers, and I think the only reason people may have a problem with the fact that it's so low in wattage is because JOYO is not typically a company that we associate with such a boutique premium product.
Yeah.
This clearly is changing that perception, and really the sound quality is really backed up. And this is a great marriage of two. It's you guys had the idea and the technology, they have the resources, and
Yep.
now it's here. There's a ton of other cool features. You can not only you get the foot switch that you can switch between channels, but you can also do cabinet switching,
Yep. Yep.
which
Yeah.
is something pretty darn
So
exciting.
vintage and modern cabinets.
Which I'm all for. I think that's great. But I think we should just start sampling some of the tones.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
on the
Okay.
vintage channel we have the Atomic loaded up, which
Yeah.
is kind of an AC 30-ish kind of sound.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So I'll let you guys kind of turn the knobs, and I just want to
Yeah.
lean back and enjoy the music.
So everything is on 12 now, just to start with, and then you tell me what you want, and maybe I can.
Yeah, a little bit more of the bright
Yeah.
input.
That. By the way, one thing I forgot to say. Yeah, most vintage amps had two inputs, normal and bright.
Right.
And here I have two knobs, normal and bright. So it's like having jumpered the two inputs and having still the two knobs available.
Love it. So that's probably got to be one of the beefiest AC sounds I've ever heard, which of course we have to mention the AC
Yeah.
did not have 6L6s.
Yeah, exactly.
It came with 84s,
84s.
correct?
Yeah.
So we're getting a little bit more thump, which
Yes.
I kind of like with this particular sound. Just that little extra body, because sometimes an AC style amp can be
Yeah.
just a little bit more brash than you might want.
Mhm.
So this is, I like it just like this. I wish I knew what speakers were in this cab, because it actually is, it's sounding really good. Little gritty, but still pretty clean. I like that. Let's move on to another sound. One that
Okay.
what's one of your favorites? Surprise me.
Well, I'm not really original because I love the Bassman, of course. So
Fine.
and so let's try this. Everything is on 12 now. Then you tell me what you
All right.
would like to do.
Let's turn up the normal input.
Yeah.
And,
Like
and
this.
then turn down the bright.
Okay.
And let's just listen to that normal input. Now, if you dial that in just right, that could be like your pedal platform sound right
Yeah.
there. That's
Yeah,
exactly.
and the idea of having the control for the normal and the bright, it's like that can take care of an EQ stage for you,
Exactly.
Yeah.
which is
Yeah.
really,
Yeah.
really, really nice. So, of the other circuit models that we have, let's kind of give a rundown of what else
Yeah.
we've got.
Well, okay. We have a blues breaker, a plexi, This is the Tweed Deluxe. This is a Marshall 18 watt. Dear Reverend is the Deluxe Reverb, Twin Reverb, a Matchbox, and then there are some Frankenstein mix presets that I invented and I kind of like.
Let's try one of those Frankenstein mixes.
Okay, so this is what I call it British steel. Basically, it's something in between the AC30 and the Blues Breaker.
All right.
Just putting together some blocks of it. You can use both the presence and the cut. So the presence from the JTM and the cut from the Vox.
Cool.
And in the preamp, I just messed up something, putting blocks together of both, and I like it. It has the same tone, the same, let's say, bandwidth of JTM. The tone stack is kind of Marshall, but then the compression, early compression, is more Voxish.
All right.
So it's that kind of thing. But please.
Well, let's go with let's go with a little bit of cream for this one. That has a really nice kind of dynamic range to the gain right there. Mm-hmm. That you could really feel that lowering of the attack on it. I like that. That was really nice. Let's go ahead and go over to the modern side now.
Okay.
And what do we got loaded up on there right now?
So the first one is the most classic, probably, is the JCM 800. Oh, by the way, if you don't know what it is, there is an information button. You just have to click it. And if it works, come on.
You have to tell it the right way.
There we go.
And it tells you, okay, this is the JCM, and a few information about that.
And since we're here, let's make note that we see that there is a knob that's yellowed right now. Right. So what that means is that if you want to get as close as possible to the original sound of that circuit, you'll want to take that knob and turn it to about that position. Mm-hmm. So let's go ahead with the Jackman. We'll put everything at noon, and we'll get that knob right about there. And I think this sound deserves riffs. I like it already. It's definitely up my alley. Let's push gain 1. Let's scoop out some mids, add a little bit more treble. Maybe I think we could get away with turning this up just a little bit more. See, we can get a little modern with this. Yep, I like that one.
By the way, that guitar is great.
Yeah.
I have to say that.
I should mention, thank you, Framus, for this lovely Pantera. You know, I'm typically a Les Paul player, so this is a pretty good approximation, and it is. It's got my Seymour Duncan pickups in it, of course, which I love. Yeah. So it's definitely close to home, and that's pretty darn close to home for me too.
Kind of temptation for you.
Yeah, this is a really bad trip for my wallet. This is really bad for me. That sounds really good too, and I have to say, I was a little apprehensive hearing that it ships with 6L6s. My experience with 6L6 amps is not very favorable. Mm-hmm. So listening to this, I'm actually really enjoying it. I definitely would be one of those guys who's like, I got to hear this with 34s now and swap that out. But the fact that I don't particularly like 6L6 tube amps, and here I am playing one and I'm enjoying the sound, I'm very impressed by that. So,
Thank you.
very nice. The one preamp that I found myself enjoying a lot was Fast Eddie's Vivo.
Oh yeah.
So let's go ahead and switch over to that. Now, Vivo, if you don't know your...
You see Fast Eddie.
There you go. If you don't know your Roman numerals, you know, V5, there you go. It's a 5150 if you couldn't figure that out. Yeah, that's...
Turn it all the way up.
Let's
and
do
then,
that.
Yeah.
And
2211.
yes. Let's go ahead and put... I know Ed usually likes his mids lower these days, but I need a little bit more mid-range. Yeah, and that gets pretty close. I have experience with real 5150s. That gets pretty darn close. I think if we just boosted the volume up a little more, I think that gets pretty close. We could get, and the cool thing is that there's 2 gain controls on the modern channel. So it's essentially giving the end user control over 2 different gain stages.
Exactly.
There are 2 gain stages which are cascaded. Normally the second gain stage in all amps is fixed.
Yeah.
And I always used this thing in all the amps, all the high gain amps I made, because I kind of liked it. The idea that you could trim also the second stage gain and maybe have it high on the first and low on the second, or the opposite, and it changed the texture completely.
Yeah.
And it is also useful in this particular case because you can adapt actually the gain of the second stage to what we are actually playing. So the Vivo is all the way up, the JCM is around here, the Soldan is around here, but also it's a creative tool that you have, because the tone can really change a lot by mixing differently the gain of the first and the second.
Well, let's just show a little bit of that experimentation. Let's leave the second stage all the way up, and I'll just start playing some riffs, and then just slowly turn that back to about noon on the dial, and you can kind of hear the difference of that. It's a pretty interesting thing to hear. We might need to turn that down. They might get mad at us. Yeah, that's what is so crazy to me about really experiencing that as I'm playing and I'm not the one dialing it out, is that most people associate Ed's sound with that, that Marshall. So when he switched to having the 5150, it was like, where's that classic sound? It's completely different. Still sounds like Ed, still sounds great, but it's different. With that second gain stage, we went from that super saturated sound to something a little bit more percussive. But it's the exact same circuit, just manipulating a different stage of gain, so that now that sound is just a little bit more versatile than the original, which I think is amazing. This is one of the ones that I've found myself really enjoying. But another one that I would also like to hear with 34s, because I've played the EL34 version of the 5150, and that is my favorite of the 2 versions. So I'm loving the way that this sounds. What are some of the other models that we've got on the modern channel?
So I would suggest, that's really the classic. Is the dual rectifier. We call it double reactor.
Double reactor.
This is appropriate with 6L6s. And if you want to give it a try,
we'll strum a couple chords. We might be pushing our time here a little bit, but here we go.
But I have one last thing to show you, which is
Let's do
the
it.
possibility to mix things. So
The
with this
combo
menu,
mode.
yeah.
I know what he's gonna do, and I'm excited.
So let's go back to the JCM just to have a classic
All right.
high gain tone. And now I mix things up and I put a Vox power amp.
Whoa!
Yeah.
Whoa! And so we're changing up the power amp at that point. Now, just give everybody the technical rundown quickly of what exactly changing to that particular power amp is doing to the overall circuit of the amplifier.
Yeah. So big difference between Marshalls and Vox is that Marshall has how can I say, has a high damping power stage. It has a feedback loop. It has a presence control inside the feedback loop, which is normally pushing out a little bit the mid highs. And the main difference in the way it drives the speaker is that it drives the speaker more efficiently, so it is piloting the speaker and keeping the cone under control.
Okay.
While the AC30 has no feedback, so it's, to be a bit nerdy, its output impedance is higher, which means that basically it leaves the speakers float a little bit more, so the damping of the speaker is lower. You get some more boomy bass, but also you have a feeling of the sound opening up, like it's breathing.
Yeah, it definitely
And
felt like
I love it.
Yeah.
Actually,
Yeah, that was really fun. So basically, the way that I'm going to sum it up for you guys is that this really, in person, lives up to a lot of the videos that we've seen Henning do already on this particular amp and the original Kickstarter amps that you guys had with the different kits and modules. This really, the technology is cool. The fact that it's built into a tube amplifier is really up my alley. It's this marriage of analog and digital. It's the best of both worlds, and really where I feel like music technology needs to come to that happy medium. It's analog heart and a digital brain. Those are some of my favorite things. But I do have one last question to ask you guys. Now that this is here, do you see this, how far in the future do you think you see going with this as like developing new ways of getting new circuits into the software? How quickly do you think you guys would be doing something like that?
Well, we have already ready, so it's not planned, it's ready, some upgrades of the app, basically for the real nerds.
I'm going.
Please.
You wanted?
Do it.
I'm going to show you a beta version.
So what we're looking at right here is the beta version of the iPad control app for the dual Klonz. And so what exactly are we looking at that's different from what we've seen already?
It's different that when you change something, for example, there is just a side out. This was a Robert Keeley suggestion.
We made it here.
Just not to let the user, is it working or not? This way it shows you that, okay, I am biasing. No technical information, just, hey, I'm doing something.
Because when you're switching between some sounds, the tubes need to rebias, and then you have silence for a couple of seconds, and you might think, oh, it's not working. It's just because it's adapting. You know, it's analog, so sometimes. And he suggested this, but then
the panel is the picture, the actual picture.
There you go.
So it's a little more Apple style.
But then for the nerds, I think this would be interesting. We will have the possibility to switch to control directly the 27 switches that we have inside.
Wow.
So you can create your own crazy thing, which and save it and
And there is a
put it-
section. It's totally, you have never seen this. It's totally blank now, but it's my Klonz.
So
And the idea is that you make your own.
presets.
I cannot say model because
No,
it's
no,
not
it's
a
not.
modeling.
Your presets.
It's
yeah.
your own
path,
circuit.
Yeah, your own path to the sound.
Okay.
And here you will. I have it on the developing machine, an
Right.
additional, an alpha, which is further shows more, but at least on something that I'm showing on TV, I want not to crash it.
All
later.
right.
But anyway, this is we will put regular updates of the app on both the Android and Apple stores.
Okay.
So if you have the app, you will get a notice automatically, and you
Very
will
cool.
download always the last version. So it will be a living product.
All right.
And for the future, well, we are kind of thinking to go back to the kits, to the DIY thing, because I like it. I like the
Yeah.
idea of
It's fun.
Maybe
Yeah.
we have some pedals, we have some, yeah.
All right. I like to. I like that.
Again, we kind of try to take a different approach to pedals. There are so many.
Yeah.
So a little bit strip it down. Also in that case, back to the past, back to the basics. Only discrete components. Yeah, we're working on that, and we are already in a quite good level in terms of development stage. And I think in the next few months we will show up something.
Well, that I'm glad to hear it. I'm glad to see that this concept is going to be in the market now. I know I was excited when I first saw it. It really does sound good, guys. It's one of those things, though, you do have to experience it for yourself. So if you get the chance, do so. Guys, thank you so much for taking the time to take part in this. I really appreciate it. This was what I was looking forward to the most. I want to know what you guys thought of the dual Klonz. Leave a comment below. Don't forget to click that subscribe button so you don't miss the rest of the GetCon videos. And until next time, my friends, I'm Sean Pierce Johnson wishing you great tone and happy stomping. Cheers, everybody.
Bye.